So War Dragon time, RPW back with the Beginner's Guide to War Dragon series. That's right, it has returned. Thank God, right? So this week we're actually going to be going over something very exciting for a lot of players out there, which is War Dragon hacks, tricks, and tips for the beginner player. That's right, who doesn't want some free rubies, tokens, or whatever else we can't get our hands on? Now, one of the biggest places you can go to find these things, of course, is the infamous internet. Like, you can literally go to Google or any of the other search engines and simply type in War Dragon hacks, and so much will pop up between videos, websites, and even other apps that will claim to be able to give you these very things known as free tokens, free rubies, and so forth. So what is the biggest trick with this? That's right, it's a scam. So remember, all of these websites that you go to, they're not going to give you anything for free. These are literal scam alerts. So with that being said, there is no hacks into this game. There's no cheat codes. There's no real cheats. There are, but not necessarily something that you're going to want to put yourself into. So why is this warning so important to new players? Because a lot of new players don't understand that if you do manage to hack or put in a cheat code into this game, this is something that will get you banned. And there's nothing like seeing a player that has put so much time and effort and money into a game just to turn around and be tricked and then find themselves banned for seriously cheating on this game. So let's go over the things today that, number one, can prevent you from being a victim of banning, how you can best protect yourself from being banned, for example. And then we'll go over some real tricks and tips that beginners can use in order to make their gaming much more fun and viable. First type of person that you're going to come across that could do this is when a new player joins your team. You might find that they approach you outside of the game, like for example in line or court or so forth, with an unbelievable price where you can actually earn things like rubies, tokens, heal potions, and even diamonds for Atlas, and many, many other things. I mean, I've heard stories of where, example, they'll tell you that they can give you a boost on your dragon, they can finish your research center, etc. Whenever anybody comes to you with the deal like this that's unbelievable, trust me, it isn't something you should believe. Now, if this does happen, what do? Well, first of all, don't do it. Do not even continue talking with them. Take screenshots of this and send this to War Dragons immediately. Because it's players like these who find unsuspected newer players that are very, for example, spending a lot of money. In fact, a lot of times I've noticed that who they'll target are those that are high level with low amounts of medals, because they see how determined these players are, how they're spending money on this game, and how they might be an easy target in something like this. So that's the first one. Don't buy these things from these players. Now, I've heard rumor of these working successfully, but I don't think that they would be. And let me tell you why. There are sites out there where they will sell you their accounts. For example, you'll see right here, someone has one that can be on either Android or iOS. It's a level 377 account, and it's got a mythic hunter and lots of other goodies. Now, it's showing you that it's worth $2,700. This is what they're asking for it. Now, let's think about this. Granted, if you have $2,700 to burn, you may be very tempted to buy this level 377. However, let's say that for some reason you buy this account and it becomes yours. Number one, who's to say that you're going to be able to actually access that account afterwards? There's a possibility it could be scams. Now, when it comes to more reputable sites, if there are those out there, don't think that even after purchasing this, if your account gets banned for account sharing, that you're not going to find yourself in a pickle where you've just spent $2,700 and then become banned because you're doing what they call account sharing. This is the general rule. This is the type of thing that account sharing will get you banned for. Not necessarily helping your child on their account in your own home, or playing for your husband because he is out doing whatever he has to get done, or vice versa. They can't really see things like that because you are sharing an IP address. But in this situation, let's say you buy it from somebody that is in, we'll say China or in Russia, and you live, let's say, in Brazil. those IP addresses are going to be extremely different. And so you're going to have to be able to prove, possibly be asked to prove that this is your account with purchase tickets in the past and so forth. And if you can't show that proof, that account could be banned and you would be out lots of money. So I would steer clear of buying accounts from other people. I mean, just imagine spending that kind of money and not having the money or the account. So that is something that I would highly suggest against. And remember that this is a hack, but it is also a bannable offense. So protect yourself from these things, guys. Now, this one's a little more challenging to explain, but as a new player, you need to keep an eye on the contributions of your team. If you join a new team and you're noticing that this team is scoring unusually high points, and when I mean unusual, let's say it's a gold league team and the team in itself is scoring 3 times more of the points, for example, as somebody in diamond league, then that could be a red flag. It could be a red flag that someone or multiple players on your team are actually hackers. And if you find yourself in this situation, it's not that you've done something that can get you banned, but you could be affected. So let's say you're on that team and they find out that that team earned 99% of their points, for example, through hacks and codes and cheats and so forth, then you could find your team loses out on any of the achievements that they've made. Not to mention the fact that all of these players would soon thereafter banned from the game. And now you're going to be sitting on a team that's half empty or less, dealing with a lot of wars. So it's best just to prevent this headache altogether and join a team that is honestly fair and honest, and you can tell that their scores are, average or a little above average. There's a big difference between an aggressive spending team and a team that's filled with hackers. So keep an eye on things like that. And I remember seeing this happen before, where a level 40 something had like 5 times more points than the top player that usually made the top. That is unusual scoring. So keep an eye on teams like this. All right, so the next thing I really want to go over are the good tips and tricks you can use, whether you're a beginner player or you've been playing for a while, so that you know what things out there are considered good versus bad. Now, any kind of trick or tip that you might use that actually causes, a change in the state of the game or a change in the state of your account, where you actually have to go into the system and change something, or somebody else does this for you, or it represents something that is not your account whatsoever. This is where you know it's bad. However, the good thing is if you're not making any kind of advancement in that manner, as long as it's not causing serious strife or the ability for you to have an unfair advantage over the other players in the game, these are what you call good tips and tricks. Now, good tips and tricks can be found on many videos out there, between what Odin uses, Skyline uses, or many of the other, YouTube video players out there, as well as there are many, many, many different tricks in different Facebook group pages. There's Instagram, there is Twitter, with all of these informational things that you can utilize in order to have good tricks and tips in your daily gaming. And just to list a few, for example, would be things like using XP bases instead of just attacking, for example. Utilizing that first week of Atlas for free, because it is free that first week. Don't let it go to waste. Things like this are tips and tricks, not necessarily hacks. I actually go over this in one of my past series on the Beginner's Guide series, where we talk about the different top 10 tips and tricks that you can use in order to help you. And the first one I go over is, of course, leveling elementals. Now, whenever you level your elementals during things like the fortification event, the elemental shards themselves are worth a lot of points. So one of the things that's really challenging is to gather that lumber during that event. So one of the things that I like to do is, of course, especially whenever I was lower to mid-level, was upgrade them as lumber upgrades between the events, because the lumber was so much easier to get. So I might do 1 or 2 specifically with lumber upgrades, so that whenever that would come, that would be 1 or 2 less towers I would have to gather the lumber for in order to get there. The second one is having a construction zone. Now, what I mean by this is, let's say you have made some mistakes in the past, or you've got some other high-level towers in the back. You can actually build something that you're building in a different zone that you're not utilizing and put something in its place. Like right here, I've got an ice turret in place of the one that is in the middle of upgrading, a much higher level one, of course. But this way you don't have any empty gaps on your base itself. I don't know how many times I have actually seen that. Number 3, forging your speed ups. Now, forging speed ups, remember, the best thing to do is to always forge your 12-hour speed ups. You know, it's going to be, and if you actually do the math, it's actually a lot less time for a lot more timer to just forge your 12 hours versus your 3 hours, or let's say your 1 hour. So always keep that way. Number 4, don't speed up with rubies. Now, I have accidentally done this because sometimes it's easier just to click the thing on the right. But if I was to speed something up right here, it would cost me over 2,000 rubies. However, if I click apply multiple, you're going to notice it actually only takes about 10 12-hour speed ups in total. So with that being said, what would it cost for me to go use rubies to purchase, let's say, 10 12-hour speed ups? So if I come down here and I go to the speed up pack, it's only 1,700 for 10 of those 12-hour speed ups. So it's a lot cheaper to come do it this way versus the other way. So never use them to speed it up. Now, number 5, save your den for fortifications. The reason is because this takes a lot of lumber, but it takes nearly no time in order for it to upgrade. So this is some big points that you can knock out in every fortification event without actually having to utilize your timers. So if you find yourself upgrading these between the fortification events, you are seriously making a mistake. Never do that outside of it. Now, number 6, get booster prize first. Now, when I say this, I mean, this doesn't always necessarily mean that if you're planning to get something that is 50% off, but one of the first things you're want to do is at least get the 100% booster for your tokens, unless you'd never, ever, ever do those missions. I mean, then it doesn't make any sense, like on an alt, for example. But otherwise, you know, you really want to make this worth your money, or not money, but your time, and let it cover your entire, you know, season, not just a few weeks. So you don't want to wait to the last month in order to, you know, activate this particular bonus. Number 7, choose what's best for you. Now, this is specifically for beginner players or for very slow-paced players. So with this situation, what I suggest, and this is what I did in my first round, when you go to choose the dragon in your first season, or let's say you were only here and your first season was only like the last couple weeks, technically your next season would be your first. You're going to want to grab just the dragon, up to the dragon of 3 different dragons, 3 different types, whether it be, but you're going to want it to be like 1 hunter, 1 sorcerer, and 1 warrior. Once you've grabbed those 3 small dragons, not only are you getting all these goodies along the way, but this gives you the chance to grab 3 different types of divines and play with them. Now, whichever one that you feel that you most like, whichever one that you feel the most secure with, that's the one you're going to want to focus your, you know, your stuff on. You might want to take it up at least 2 evolution stones above where you might be on your breeding tier, for example. Then maybe do that with your second favorite and then your third favorite. And if you still have stuff left over, you can even do things like, you know, take it even further or just grab yourself a rider. It's completely up to you. But I do suggest that when you first start out to have 3 divine dragons, or, you know, 2 or 3, I guess is what I'm saying, and not worry about going clear to the end, because many players that are new get discouraged pretty easily if they can't, you know, upgrade those dragons. But yet if you have 3 dragons that can help you out in PvPs and all your attacks and so forth and be stronger, those players tend to last a little longer. They tend not to become so dependent on a higher level player, or they might find themselves to where they feel like they've got the strength that they were desiring. So that is one of those that I know a lot of people don't agree with, but I do suggest getting more than one when you first start out. Once you get into your second season, you're going to understand what divines are, and you're going to be able to really choose better. Now, when it comes to the storage hut, this is actually something I've mentioned many times on my channel, which is if you go in, you can actually see when someone is upgrading or not upgrading. So during things like the feeding event and the fortification event, if you look at their storage hut when you go to attack them, if it shows that it is considered a level 1, which is like the little shacky looking thing, then you know that there's a big chance that they're not boosted. For example, here, it looks like mine. It looks built up. So this thing has a bigger chance of being boosted. However, on, let's find another one here, This one is a shack. This shack looking thing is going to mean that they're upgrading, and there's a big chance that they aren't able to activate any boost. So you would want to hit this one over any of the other bases. Now, number 9, communication. Communication is one of the biggest keys for, a successful team and for a successful gaming experience. On our team, we send out weekly newsletters. We also, of course, read all the emails, whether it come in from PG or from the leadership on our team, etc. But one of the big things that people forget is you need to turn in information to PG. If they don't know that there are problems in the game because nobody is sending in the information, then they're not going to think it is such a big deal if only 5 of 1,000 people are actually taking the time to communicate this to them. Now, there are things in there that can let you know if something is currently a live issue, so be sure to check that out as well. And if you don't find it, be sure to send this in. Not only can you give out a written description as to what's going on, but you can actually add photographs, like screenshots, so that they can see exactly what it is you are having issues with. All right, with that being said, the same thing goes with your leadership. If you find yourself not being able to play in the game and you need some time off, just like their ability to communicate with you, this is a two-way street. So if you find yourself unable to be on the game for a few days, be sure to reach out so that they know. All right, so the last tip, of course, is save the bonus chest. Now, on your silver chest, you're able to collect 30 chests, and then you're going to get what they call the bonus chest. Now, what you can do, at least unless it's broken again, you can actually save back that free chest for when they bring out the runic chests or the super sigil chest. So whenever you see that free button, don't touch it until the PvP comes in, because when the runic chests come, you'll be able to get the very expensive, valuable chest, at least one, for free. So those were my top 10 tips and tricks on a past video. If you want to go see it and hear what I said then, you are welcome to. It is in my beginner's guide video. Well, hopefully I was able to help you guys out and let you understand that some of these things that are out there, some of these options are either A, not real, they're just a scam to get you into their website, to get information or whatever. But if you happen to find somebody that can legitimately do these things for you, then this is something that could turn into a bannable offense if you're caught. Now, most of the time, players are caught. This is something that they can see on their end. And generally, it is pretty well noticeable, even to the other players on your team. So if you happen to notice that there is a cheater on your team, you don't want your team to fall victim to, losing out on their team progression. So be sure to speak up. And all you have to do is go in and let them know in the help center. Now, with that being said, again, I hope that today's video helped a lot of the beginner players understand, what is bannable and what is not. I know there's a lot more information out there, a lot more questions, but I don't know specifically what you guys worry about. So if you want, be sure to go down to the comment section below this video and tell me if there's something that you would like to have cleared up, or any specific tips or tricks that you have questions about that I can cover down in another video. Now, I am going to put together a new tips and tricks video, because now that we have Atlas and so forth, there are a lot of new cool things that you guys can utilize. So be sure to check back next week for part 2, but there will be no hacks, of course, which is War Dragon tips and tricks for beginners in my Beginners for War Dragons series. So I'll see everybody next Wednesday. And remember, if you have a player that's on your team that is under a level, 70, or someone that has been very slow to grow, then be sure to share these videos with them. All right, guys, that is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, don't forget before you leave to support my channel by giving me a big thumbs up. And if you don't already subscribe, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And then, of course, don't forget to share this with your fellow teammates. Happy hunting!